What does it truly mean to win? Is it beating someone else, standing at the top while others fall behind? Or is it something deeper, something that can't be measured by trophies or accolades? As Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." The Stoics believed that true victory is never about outpacing others, but about mastering yourself. It's about finding fulfillment and strength within, rather than chasing external validation. In a world obsessed with competition, where the loudest voices tell us that success is about dominating, outperforming, or being the best, could there be another way? A way rooted not in rivalry, but in resilience and inner peace. Today, we're going to explore the Stoic approach to winning without competing, an approach that challenges everything modern culture teaches us about success and offers a path to lasting fulfillment. Let's begin. Winning, according to the Stoics, is not about standing on a podium, receiving applause, or being recognized by others. It's not about defeating a rival or proving yourself superior in the eyes of the world. For the Stoics, winning is something far more profound. It's an inner triumph, a quiet and personal victory over the chaos of emotions, desires, and external distractions that pull us away from our true selves. At its core, winning without competing means shifting the focus away from external outcomes and rivals and turning it inward toward cultivating virtue and self-control. The Stoics taught that virtue, the qualities of wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance, was the highest good to them. Living a virtuous life was the ultimate victory. Why? Because external success, no matter how impressive, is fleeting. A title can be taken away, wealth can disappear overnight, recognition fades as quickly as it appears. But virtue, the commitment to being your best self, is something no one can take from you. It's entirely within your control, and it brings a kind of fulfillment that no amount of external success can replace. Let's look at self-control, for instance, one of the key pillars of Stoic virtue. Imagine a situation where someone insults you in front of others. The instinctive reaction might be to lash out, to defend yourself, or to try and humiliate them in return. But for the Stoic, the real win in this scenario is not about getting the upper hand or silencing your critic. The real win is maintaining your composure, staying true to your values, and refusing to let someone else dictate your emotions. That's self-control. It's the ability to rise above the noise and act in alignment with your principles, no matter what storms rage around you. Another essential element of winning without competing is detachment from outcomes. Stoics believed in focusing on what you can control and letting go of what you cannot. Think about an athlete preparing for a race. They can control how hard they train, how disciplined they are with their diet, and how much effort they put into preparing mentally and physically. But they cannot control the competition, the weather, or even the final result. If their sense of victory depends solely on winning first place, they're setting themselves up for frustration and disappointment. However, if they approach the race with the mindset of doing their best, giving their all, and maintaining their character regardless of the outcome, that's a victory no matter where they finish. It's not about beating others in the race, it's about mastering themselves. The Stoic mindset frees us from living in constant comparison to others. In a world that often pits us against one another, telling us that life is a zero-sum game where someone has to lose for us to win, Stoicism offers a refreshing alternative. You don't need to outshine, outperform, or outdo anyone. Your only competition is the person you were yesterday. Are you more patient today, more disciplined? Have you worked to align your actions with your values? These are the metrics that matter. By embracing virtue and self-control as the ultimate wins, the Stoics show us that the path to fulfillment doesn't require stepping over others or proving your worth through external accomplishments. Instead, it's about living in harmony with your values, staying true to yourself, and finding strength within. That's the kind of winning that doesn't fade, doesn't crumble, and doesn't depend on anyone else. It's a victory that's yours to claim, no matter the circumstances, and the best part is it's always within your reach. So why do we feel the need to compete in the first place? More often than not, it comes down to our perceptions, how we see others, ourselves, and what we think success looks like. The Stoics understood that our struggles with competition aren't about the external events or people around us, but rather about the way we interpret them. They taught that it's not the situation itself that creates stress or envy, but our perspective on it. And here lies one of the most powerful lessons Stoicism offers: the ability to reshape your perspective and find freedom from the traps of comparison and competition. Let's consider for a moment how much of modern competition is driven by a distorted view of others. We scroll through social media and see snapshots of people's carefully curated lives, their successes, their achievements, their seemingly perfect moments. It's easy to feel like we're falling behind, as though everyone else is competing and winning in a race we didn't even know we were running. But the Stoics remind us that what we see on the surface is never the full story. As Epictetus put it, people are not disturbed by things, but by the views they take of them. That person you envy might be struggling in ways you can't see. That promotion or award you covet might not bring the peace or happiness you imagine. By recognizing these false perceptions, we can begin to free ourselves from the need to compete with illusions. The Stoics also practiced shifting their focus away from what they couldn't control and toward what they could. This is a transformative mindset, especially when it comes to redefining what it means to succeed. Winning doesn't have to mean ending up on top or achieving a specific outcome. Instead, success can mean staying true to your values, putting in your best effort, and maintaining your character through any situation. These are the things within your control, and they are all you need to focus on to lead a fulfilling life. Take this example. Imagine you're up for a big promotion at work, but so is your colleague. Naturally, you might feel the urge to compete, to measure your worth against theirs and prove you're the better choice. But from a Stoic perspective, whether or not you get the promotion is ultimately out of your hands. You can't control your boss's decision, the timing, or even your colleague's performance. What you can control is your work ethic, your attitude, and how you handle the situation, whether with integrity or resentment. If you focus on these controllable factors, you've already succeeded, regardless of the outcome. The promotion is just an external reward, not the source of genuine fulfillment. Reframing competition through this Stoic lens shows us that we don't need to compare ourselves to others or chase external validation to feel accomplished. Instead of obsessing over what someone else has or what you lack, ask yourself, have I acted in a way that aligns with my principles? Have I done my best with the opportunities and resources available to me? Have I prioritized growth and self-improvement over the need to outdo someone else? These are the questions that truly matter. A shift in perspective changes everything. When you stop seeing others as competitors and start focusing on your own path, you can let go of unnecessary stress, envy, and frustration. The success of others no longer feels like a threat because you've redefined what success means to you. Their wins don't diminish your progress, and their achievements don't interfere with your own. In fact, their success might even inspire you rather than discourage you when you're no longer trapped in the cycle of comparison. By taking control of your perspective, you gain the freedom to live in alignment with your values rather than constantly chasing external measures of success. And in doing so, you discover that winning without competing isn't just possible, it's the most empowering victory you can achieve. So how do we free ourselves from the endless cycle of competition and comparison? The Stoics believed that the answer lies in detaching ourselves from outcomes. This doesn't mean giving up on our goals or aspirations. It's not about abandoning effort or ambition. Instead, it's about shifting our focus entirely to the process, to what we can control, and letting go of the need to dictate results. This principle is at the heart of Stoic philosophy, and it's one of the most powerful tools for finding peace and fulfillment. Epictetus, one of the most influential Stoic thinkers, famously said, "Some things are up to us and some things are not." This simple yet profound idea is a cornerstone of Stoic philosophy. According to Epictetus, the only things we truly control are our thoughts, our actions, and how we respond to the world around us. Everything else, whether it's other people's opinions, external circumstances, or even the final outcomes of our efforts, is outside our control. By recognizing this distinction, we free ourselves from the frustration and disappointment that often come from obsessing over things we can't change. Let's imagine an artist working on a painting. They can control the time they invest, the strokes of the brush, the colors they choose, and their dedication to the craft. But they can't control how others will perceive the final piece, whether it will hang in a gallery or whether it will sell for a high price. If the artist ties their happiness to these external outcomes, they risk feeling unfulfilled, even after pouring their heart into the work. But if they focus solely on the process, on expressing themselves, improving their skill, and finding joy in the act of creating, they free themselves from this burden. They've already succeeded by doing their best and staying true to their vision, regardless of how the world reacts. The same principle applies to almost every aspect of life. Whether you're pursuing a career goal, working on a relationship, or striving for personal growth, the Stoic approach is to focus on what you can do, not on the result you want. You can prepare thoroughly for a project at work, but you can't guarantee that your boss will like it. You can treat someone with kindness and respect, but you can't control how they'll respond. You can work tirelessly toward a dream, but the timing, opportunities, or external circumstances might not align. The wisdom of detaching from outcomes is recognizing that your success lies in the effort itself, not in what happens afterward. This mindset doesn't mean we shouldn't care about results. It simply means we don't let ourselves be defined by them. When you focus on the process, on showing up, giving your best, and staying true to your values, you're building habits and character that will serve you far beyond any single outcome. And here's the irony: when you stop fixating on the results and start focusing on the effort, the results often take care of themselves. But even if they don't, you'll have the peace of knowing you did everything within your power. Detaching from outcomes also shields us from unnecessary emotional turmoil. When things don't go our way, it's easy to feel defeated, as though we've failed. But if we've truly given our best and acted in accordance with our principles, there's no reason to feel like we've lost. The outcome may not have aligned with our hopes, but that's out of our control. What we can take pride in is the fact that we stayed committed to the process, and that is a victory in and of itself. So how can you practice this in your own life? Start by asking yourself, what parts of this situation are within my control? What effort can I make today, and how can I approach this task with clarity and purpose? Then let go of worrying about the rest. By focusing on the process and detaching from the results, you're not only embracing the Stoic approach, you're also freeing yourself from the stress and anxiety that come with trying to control the uncontrollable. In the end, the measure of success is not in what you achieve, but in how you show up. Why is it so tempting to measure our worth by the opinions of others? In a world driven by likes, followers, and applause, it can feel almost impossible to escape the pull of external validation. Yet, the Stoics teach us something radically different. The key to a fulfilled life doesn't lie in chasing approval from others. It lies in cultivating self-respect, an unshakable sense of worth that comes from living in alignment with our values, not someone else's expectations. To the Stoics, external comparison is a trap. When we define ourselves based on how we stack up against others, we hand over control of our happiness to forces outside of us. We let the opinions of others or the fleeting rewards of status and recognition dictate our sense of worth. But what happens when those external factors shift? When trends change, when admiration fades, or when someone else achieves what we haven't, by relying on external validation, we place ourselves on a shaky foundation, one that's bound to crumble. The Stoics remind us to build our lives on something far more stable, our own character and principles. Consider this example. Imagine someone who dreams of becoming a writer. They pour their heart into their work, writing with honesty and passion, staying true to the stories they want to tell. But when they show their work to others, they're met with societal expectations like, write something more marketable, or, this genre doesn't sell well, change your style. The pull of external validation might tempt them to compromise, to adjust their vision for the sake of fitting in or gaining approval. But would they feel fulfilled by creating something that's inauthentic to their voice? The Stoic path would urge them to resist the pressure to conform and to honor their values instead. The real victory here is not selling a bestseller. It's maintaining the courage to stay true to their integrity, even in the face of societal pressures. This approach isn't always easy. Society constantly urges us to compare, to look at someone else's success, wealth, or accomplishments and use them as a measure of our own value. But the Stoics help us see that this kind of comparison is an illusion. Just because someone else achieves something doesn't mean you failed. Their path is theirs and yours is yours. The only true measure of success is whether you are living your life in harmony with your own values. Seneca wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." Similarly, it's not the person who lacks external praise who feels dissatisfied, it's the person who depends on it. Now, let's reflect on how this shift from external comparison to internal validation can transform our lives. What if, instead of asking, "How do I measure up to others?" we asked, "Am I proud of the way I'm living?" What if, instead of chasing admiration, we focused on cultivating qualities like honesty, patience, and kindness? By prioritizing self-respect over external approval, we gain freedom. A freedom that comes from knowing we aren't defined by someone else's opinions or expectations. The Stoics also believed that self-respect requires clarity about what matters most. They encouraged us to focus on things that are within our control, our thoughts, our actions, and our choices. When you live in alignment with your values, you no longer need anyone else to validate you. You don't worry about applause because your fulfillment comes from knowing you're doing what's right. And when you stop comparing yourself to others, you allow yourself to celebrate their successes without feeling diminished by them. You understand that your worth is inherent. It doesn't need to be proven or compared. In the end, living for external validation is exhausting because it's a race with no finish line. But living for internal validation rooted in self-respect and aligned with your values is liberating. It's true fulfillment, the kind no amount of applause or comparison can ever provide. So the next time you feel the pull of external approval, ask yourself, am I being true to the person I want to be? That answer, and that answer alone, is all you need. Equanimity is one of the most powerful tools in the Stoics' arsenal. It's the ability to remain calm, composed, and unshaken, no matter what life throws your way. Good or bad, triumph or setback, equanimity allows you to approach every situation with clarity and balance. It's not about suppressing emotions or pretending that difficulties don't affect you. It's about maintaining your inner stability, keeping your mind anchored even when the world around you feels chaotic. For the Stoics, equanimity wasn't just a virtue, it was a key to living a truly resilient and fulfilling life. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, wrote extensively about the importance of composure in both success and failure. He famously said, "A wise person is neither raised up by prosperity nor cast down by adversity, for they have always sought to rely chiefly on themselves and to derive all joy from within themselves." In other words, true strength comes from not letting external circumstances dictate your state of mind. Whether life hands you a victory or a setback, equanimity allows you to face it with grace, focusing on what matters most: your values, your character, and your ability to respond thoughtfully. Think about it. How often do we let external events control our emotions? When things go well, we might feel an exhilarating high, but it can make us overly dependent on those fleeting moments of success. And when things don't go as planned, the disappointment can send us spiraling into frustration, self-doubt, or despair. The Stoics understood that this emotional roller coaster is the result of attaching too much importance to things we cannot control. Equanimity, on the other hand, is the practice of stepping off that ride altogether. It's about finding a steadiness that doesn't waver regardless of what happens around you. Imagine you're working toward a long-term goal, like building a business or training for a marathon. Along the way, you'll encounter highs, hitting a milestone, receiving praise, or feeling like you're making visible progress. But you'll also face inevitable lows, setbacks, criticism, or moments when you doubt yourself. Without equanimity, these challenges could feel overwhelming, tempting you to give up or lose sight of why you started. However, with equanimity, you approach each high and low with the same steady perspective. If you succeed, you're grateful but not carried away by pride. If you fail, you learn, adjust, and move forward without losing your composure. This balance keeps you grounded, focused, and more effective in pursuing your goals. Equanimity doesn't mean indifference. It's not about ignoring your successes or struggles. Instead, it's about seeing them in the right proportion. Seneca compared life to a play where we're all actors performing our roles. He said, "What you must do, then, is to accept the role assigned to you and play it as best you can." In this metaphor, the outcome of the play isn't something you can control. What you can control is how well you perform your role, whether that role brings you applause or criticism. By staying composed and focusing on your character, you can find peace even in the face of uncertainty. Equanimity is especially valuable in moments of crisis. Picture a ship's captain navigating through a storm. If they panic, they lose clarity and risk making poor decisions that could endanger the crew. But if they remain calm and focus on what they can control, adjusting the sails, steering with precision, they maximize their chances of weathering the storm. Similarly, when we face challenges in life, equanimity gives us the presence of mind to respond with wisdom and intention, rather than reacting impulsively out of fear or frustration. Cultivating equanimity takes practice, but it begins with a simple shift in perspective. Remind yourself that you cannot control everything that happens, but you can always control how you respond. Reflect on the transient nature of both success and failure. Neither defines you and neither lasts forever. Focus instead on what is constant, your commitment to living with integrity, courage, and resilience. Equanimity is not about avoiding life's highs and lows. It's about meeting them with strength and clarity. Whether you're celebrating a win or recovering from a loss, equanimity allows you to stay steady, grounded, and true to yourself. As a result, you're able to face life's challenges with the calm assurance that no matter what happens, your inner peace remains intact. Have you ever noticed how much energy we spend comparing ourselves to others? Whether it's at work, on social media, or even in everyday interactions, the drive to outdo, outperform, or prove ourselves can be overwhelming. But from a Stoic perspective, this constant competition isn't just exhausting, it's a distraction from what truly matters. The Stoics believed that focusing on external rivals pulls us away from the real task of life, cultivating virtue and strengthening our character. In their view, the only worthwhile competition is the one we have with ourselves, battling our own vices and flaws. When we obsess over competing with others, we place our attention on things outside of our control. We worry about someone else's success, their progress, or their recognition, all of which are external factors we can't influence. This diverts us from addressing what is within our control: our thoughts, our actions, and our ability to grow as individuals. Imagine you're so focused on outperforming a colleague at work that you lose sight of doing the job with integrity, diligence, and care. The need to win over them can lead to envy, frustration, or even unethical behavior, steering you further from the Stoic ideal of virtuous living. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, understood this well. In his Meditations he wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be one." This advice is simple yet profound. Rather than worrying about how you measure up to others, the priority should always be to live as your best self, aligned with your principles. Competing against others distracts you from this mission. Instead of asking, "How do I compare to them?" the Stoics would urge us to ask, "What can I improve within myself?" Think of it this way: competing with others often leads to focusing on outward appearances, who's more successful, wealthier, or more admired. But these external markers don't necessarily reflect one's character or virtue. As the Stoics remind us, virtue is the only true measure of a good life. Are you honest? Are you kind? Are you disciplined in your thoughts and actions? These are the qualities that matter, and they require turning inward, not outward. Take, for example, the vice of anger. Let's say someone insults you, and your instinct is to retaliate to protect your pride and prove your strength. In that moment, it might feel like winning the argument will restore your dignity. But from a Stoic perspective, the true victory is not over the other person, it's over your anger. The challenge lies in resisting the urge to react impulsively and instead responding with patience and reason. That's a far greater accomplishment than proving someone else wrong. As Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." The real competition is with your own anger, ego, and impulses, not the person standing in front of you. Similarly, consider the vice of laziness. Competing with others might drive you to succeed temporarily, perhaps out of fear of falling behind. But without addressing the underlying habit of procrastination or lack of discipline, the motivation fades as soon as the competitive pressure is removed. On the other hand, if you recognize laziness as a personal flaw and take consistent steps to overcome it, you're engaging in the kind of inner competition that leads to lasting growth. This shift in focus from external rivals to internal challenges is transformative. Instead of being consumed by comparison or rivalry, every day becomes an opportunity for self-improvement. Did you act with more patience today than yesterday? Did you resist a temptation that previously held power over you? Have you worked to align your actions with your values, even in small ways? These are the victories that truly matter, and they don't require anyone else to lose. By viewing competition as a distraction from virtue, the Stoics offer us a liberating perspective. We no longer need to measure ourselves against others or feel threatened by their success. Our energy can be fully directed toward becoming the best version of ourselves, conquering our own flaws, and living a life of integrity. The only race worth running is the one against your own vices, and in that race, every step forward is a win. One of the most powerful ideas in Stoic philosophy is the dichotomy of control. At its heart, this concept is simple. There are things in life we can control, and there are things we cannot. According to the Stoics, true wisdom lies in focusing only on what's within our control and letting go of the rest. It's a principle that, when understood deeply, can eliminate unnecessary stress, anxiety, and most importantly for this discussion, the need to compete with others. By recognizing what truly belongs to us, we can redirect our energy toward personal growth and fulfillment, rather than exhaust ourselves trying to manipulate outcomes or surpass our peers. So, what exactly can we control? The Stoics teach us that our thoughts, actions, attitudes, and values are entirely within our domain. These are the aspects of life that we have direct influence over. On the other hand, external events like the opinions of others, social recognition, or even the actions of our competitors are entirely outside our control. Despite this, we often spend much of our energy stressing over these uncontrollable factors. We may try to predict or influence how others perceive us, strive to outshine someone in our field, or feel disheartened when external circumstances don't favor us. But the dichotomy of control reminds us that these efforts are misplaced. Why waste energy on what we cannot change when we could invest it into what we can? Let's consider a practical example of how this principle can help us escape the competitiveness trap. Imagine you're working in a team at your job and a coveted promotion becomes available. Naturally, your peers are also vying for the same opportunity. Some might start focusing on outperforming others, working longer hours just to be seen, trying to impress the boss, or even gossiping to diminish the perceived value of their colleagues. But from a Stoic perspective, this approach is flawed because it fixates on factors outside of your control. How the boss evaluates each person, office politics, or the final decision-making process. Now, let's apply the dichotomy of control to this scenario. Instead of obsessing over what your colleagues are doing or worrying about how you measure up, you could focus entirely on your own growth. What's in your control? Your effort, your quality of work, your attitude, and your integrity. You could aim to improve your skills, refine your contributions to the team, and conduct yourself with professionalism and respect. By doing this, you not only free yourself from the stress of comparison, but you also align your actions with the values that matter most to you. Whether or not you get the promotion, you've succeeded in the areas that truly count, and your energy has gone toward becoming a better version of yourself, not tearing others down or chasing external validation. This mindset does something remarkable. It neutralizes the source of competition. When you stop worrying about outperforming others and commit to focusing solely on your own efforts and growth, you step out of the comparison game entirely. The success or failure of your peers no longer affects you because your sense of fulfillment doesn't hinge on their outcomes. You've reclaimed control over your own narrative. Marcus Aurelius beautifully summed up this idea when he said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." The strength he's referring to is the freedom that comes from not being a prisoner of external forces. It's the strength to focus on what truly matters: your character, your actions, and how you rise to the challenges of life. The dichotomy of control teaches us to stop chasing what we can't guarantee and to start embracing the one thing we truly own: ourselves. In doing so, we free ourselves from the exhaustion of competition and the emptiness of external validation. Instead, we find peace in knowing that the only measure of success is how well we live in accordance with our values. And the beauty of this philosophy is that it's yours to practice right here and now. The Stoics often spoke about living in accord with nature, a phrase that might seem abstract at first, but it carries profound wisdom when unpacked. At its core, this idea invites us to align our lives with the natural order of things, both the external world around us and our internal nature as rational beings. For the Stoics, living authentically according to the principles of reason, virtue, and our unique role in the world isn't just the path to peace, it's the ultimate form of success. And when we live in this way, the need for external competition begins to fade because we're not trying to prove ourselves to others. Instead, we're focused on fulfilling our own purpose. Let's begin with the idea of aligning with the external world. To the Stoics, nature operates according to certain laws. Everything flows as it should, governed by reason and order. The seasons change, rivers flow, and life moves forward with or without our approval. To resist this natural order, whether through unhealthy ambition, envy, or anger at the circumstances we find ourselves in, is to struggle needlessly against reality. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Nature is relentless and it doesn't care if we understand it or not." The lesson here is that peace comes when we accept life as it is, not as we wish it to be. When we focus on living in harmony with the world rather than trying to bend it to our will, we stop wasting energy fighting battles we can't win, and we start living with intention and clarity. But living in accord with nature is not just about adapting to the external world. It's also about honoring our own internal nature. As human beings, we are unique in our capacity for reason, making thoughtful choices and cultivating virtue. The Stoics believed that living authentically means embracing this higher nature, using it to guide our actions, and rejecting the distractions of external approval or comparison. When we align our lives with reason and virtue qualities like wisdom, courage, justice, and self-discipline, we naturally live authentically and find fulfillment. In other words, life becomes less about competing with others and more about staying true to our values. Let's take an example. Imagine someone who's constantly trying to out-earn their peers, working tirelessly not because they find joy in their work or because it aligns with their principles, but because they feel the need to prove their worth through material success. This person is living out of alignment not with nature, not with their rational mind, but with societal pressures and fleeting desires. Now, contrast this with someone who approaches their career differently. They focus on doing meaningful work that contributes to the greater good, balancing their efforts with personal integrity and self-respect. They nurture their relationships, care for their well-being, and stay committed to their principles. This second person, who lives authentically according to their reason and values, achieves a deeper kind of success, one that transcends external trophies and comparisons. This is what the Stoics meant when they talked about living in accord with nature. It's not about isolating ourselves or abandoning ambition. It's about letting reason and virtue lead while leaving behind the distractions of ego and competition. When you align with your true nature, success becomes less about how you compare to others and more about how fully you're embodying your principles. And here's the key: when you live this way, external success often follows as a natural consequence. Not because you were chasing it, but because authentic living tends to create meaningful, lasting impact. So how do you embrace this Stoic approach? Start by asking, what principles truly matter to me? Are my actions aligned with those values, or am I letting external pressures steer me off course? What would it look like to live in harmony with reason, focusing on what I can give to the world rather than what I can take from it? These small shifts in perspective can lead to profound changes. By living in accord with nature, both the world around us and the virtues within us, we free ourselves from unnecessary rivalry and find a deeper, more enduring sense of purpose. The need to compete falls away because you're no longer playing by someone else's rules. Instead, you're living authentically, and in doing so, you achieve a success that's truly your own. Self-mastery, it's a concept that's often talked about, but in the Stoic tradition, it stands as the ultimate victory, greater than any achievement recognized by the external world. For the Stoics, the ability to govern your own emotions, desires, and impulses isn't just a sign of strength. It's the very foundation of a fulfilled and virtuous life. As Marcus Aurelius put it, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. This simple yet profound idea reveals one of the most transformative pillars of Stoicism. The true battleground is within, and the strongest among us are those who can master themselves. But what does it mean to master yourself? At its core, self-mastery is about gaining control over the forces within us that, if unchecked, can lead us astray. It's about training the mind to act rather than react, in alignment with reason and virtue. This includes understanding and regulating our emotions, resisting fleeting desires, and tempering the impulses that often drive us toward rash decisions. The Stoics believed that external circumstances, no matter how challenging, cannot force us to act against our principles. It's only when we lose control of ourselves, when we let anger, fear, greed, or envy take the reins, that we truly falter. Let's consider emotions, for example. The Stoics didn't view emotions as inherently bad, but they warned against being ruled by them. Anger, for instance, may feel powerful in the moment, but how often does it lead to regret? Imagine a situation where someone cuts you off in traffic. Your first impulse might be to honk aggressively, yell, or let that moment ruin your mood. But what would a Stoic do? A Stoic would pause, recognize the emotion bubbling up, and remind themselves that the event is external, it's out of their control. What is in their control, however, is their response. By choosing calm over rage, they demonstrate self-mastery, subtly winning an important inner battle. Desires pose another challenge. As humans, we're constantly pulled by desires, some small, like snacking on an unhealthy treat, and others large, like chasing wealth or status. While desires in themselves aren't wrong, the Stoics warned against being enslaved by them. Marcus Aurelius noted, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." The Stoic approach to desires is not about denying pleasure entirely, but about ensuring that pleasure doesn't control you. For example, imagine setting a goal to save money for a meaningful long-term purpose, but then being tempted to splurge on something you don't truly need. Giving in to that impulse might bring temporary satisfaction, but resisting it in favor of your higher goals strengthens your discipline and affirms your self-control. Each time you overcome a desire that doesn't serve your values, you deepen your mastery over yourself. Impulses, too, are a test of self-governance. Think of the moments when we act without thinking, when we snap at someone in frustration, say yes to something we regret, or procrastinate instead of following through on our commitments. These quick, unexamined reactions often come from a lack of self-awareness. The Stoics teach us to slow down and evaluate our choices, asking ourselves, is this action aligned with my principles? Does it contribute to the person I want to be? By pausing to reflect, we reclaim control over our actions, turning potentially impulsive moments into opportunities for growth. Self-mastery, then, is not about perfection, it's about progress. It's about striving every day to act with intention, to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively, and to live according to your values even when it's difficult. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Become your own master and you will set yourself free." This is the freedom that the Stoics pursued, freedom from being controlled by external events, other people's opinions, or even their own untrained instincts. When you master yourself, you become unshakable. No insult can provoke you, no temptation can derail you, and no crisis can break your spirit. This is the ultimate Stoic victory, not something granted by the world, but something cultivated within. And here's the most empowering part. While external success can be fleeting, self-mastery is entirely within your grasp. It's a victory you can strive for every day, and one that no one can ever take away from you. In the Stoic philosophy, there's a profound shift in how success is measured. Unlike the world's obsession with results, winning at any cost, meeting specific goals, or outperforming others, the Stoics placed their emphasis on the only thing truly within our control: effort. To act with intention, to strive toward a goal with diligence and virtue, is what matters most. The outcome, whether it ends in success or failure by external standards, is secondary. For the Stoics, this mindset isn't just practical, it's liberating. By praising effort over results, they uncovered one of the most effective ways to cultivate inner peace. Imagine you're preparing for an important presentation at work. You dedicate hours to rehearsing, researching, and refining your delivery. You've done everything within your power to prepare. Then the moment comes and it doesn't go as planned. Maybe technical issues arise. Maybe your audience isn't as engaged as you hoped. Or maybe someone else's presentation overshadows yours. From the outside, it might look like you failed, but from a Stoic perspective, your success isn't determined by applause or criticism. The question isn't, did I win? But did I give my best effort? If the answer is yes, then you've already succeeded. The result, though it may feel disappointing, doesn't diminish the value of the hard work and intention you poured into the task. The Stoics believed this shift in perspective, valuing effort over outcome, is the key to freeing ourselves from unnecessary stress and disappointment. Marcus Aurelius, for example, constantly reminded himself to focus on his duty, not the result. He wrote, "Do not be carried away by the impression of things, but let reasonable deliberation always attend what you do." The point is clear: the effort we put into acting virtuously, into giving our best, is what aligns us with our higher purpose. The result, that's beyond our control and unworthy of consuming our peace of mind. This mindset can be applied to any area of life. Take parenting, for example. A parent pours endless love, time, and energy into raising a child, teaching them important values and preparing them for the future. But as the child grows, they make their own choices that might not align with the parent's hopes. A parent focused solely on results might feel like they've failed. But a Stoic parent would focus instead on what they gave in the process. Did they provide love and guidance? Did they model the values they believed in? If so, their effort was not in vain, regardless of the outcome. Praising effort over results allows for peace because it directs the focus toward what's controllable, the parent's actions, not what isn't, which is the child's ultimate path. Why is this mindset so powerful? Because it removes us from the trap of living in fear of failure. When we define success by outcomes alone, every setback becomes a threat to our sense of worth. On the other hand, if we value effort and intention, every moment becomes an opportunity to succeed because success is now measured by our commitment to doing our best. The fear of losing fades because we understand that the outcome was never truly in our hands to begin with. This Stoic habit also helps us stay grounded when external success does come. Imagine achieving a big career milestone like landing a promotion or launching a successful product. If you're focused on results, you might find yourself constantly chasing the next win, never truly satisfied. But if you value effort, you find joy in the process itself, the hard work, the discipline, the growth. The outcome becomes a bonus, not the sole measure of your worth or happiness. In valuing effort over results, the Stoics teach us that the journey is just as, if not more, important than the destination. This is where real fulfillment lies, not in the fleeting joy of a win or the sting of a loss, but in the quiet confidence of knowing we've acted with intention, heart, and integrity. When you embrace this mindset, you create a sense of inner peace that no external circumstance can take away. After all, success may be uncertain, but effort, that's always in your hands. Practicing *amor fati*, or love of one's fate, is one of the most profound yet challenging principles in Stoic philosophy. It teaches us to not only accept the circumstances of our lives, but to embrace them fully as if we had chosen them ourselves. While this might sound counterintuitive, particularly when life doesn't go the way we'd hoped, *ama fati* is a transformative mindset that leads to freedom and peace. By loving your fate, you remove the need to compare yourself to others or compete for a different outcome. Instead, you find contentment in the unique path that belongs to you and no one else. The beauty of *ama fati* lies in its ability to shift our perspective. It's easy to think, if only things were different, I'd be happier, or to envy someone else's position, opportunities, or success. But this way of thinking traps us in a cycle of dissatisfaction, always chasing after what isn't ours. The Stoics invite us to look at life differently. As Epictetus put it, don't demand that things happen as you wish, but wish that they happen as they do, and you will go on well. In other words, rather than fighting against reality, find a way to align yourself with it. Every event, good, bad, or neutral, becomes an opportunity to grow, to learn, and to live in harmony with the world as it is, not as we want it to be. Let's take an example. Imagine you're competing for a promotion at work, but your colleague is chosen for the role instead. It's natural to feel disappointed or even envious, comparing yourself to their success and wishing the outcome had gone differently. But from the perspective of *ama fati*, this situation is not something to resist or resent. Instead of lamenting what you didn't get, you ask yourself, how can I embrace this as part of my journey? Perhaps this opens the door for you to explore other opportunities, strengthen your skills, or even reevaluate what truly matters to you. By loving your fate, you shift from wishing for a different life to fully owning the life you have. This mindset doesn't mean passively accepting everything that happens without effort or action. It's not about giving up or settling for less. Instead, *ama fati* is about taking responsibility for your response to life's events. It's saying, this is my situation and I will embrace it wholeheartedly, using it as a chance to become better, stronger, and wiser. When you approach life this way, you stop comparing your path to someone else's. You understand that their journey is theirs and yours is uniquely yours. There's no need to compete because everything you face, every challenge, every success, every setback is perfectly tailored to your growth. The principle of *ama fati* also teaches us to see obstacles not as roadblocks but as stepping stones. The next time something doesn't go the way you hoped, consider this. What if this is exactly what you need, even if it doesn't feel like it right now? Marcus Aurelius wrote, "A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it." In the same way, by practicing *ama fati*, you can turn every experience into fuel for your growth, embracing even the toughest circumstances as part of your story. When you live with *ama fati*, you're no longer tethered to what could have been or trapped in the cycle of wanting what someone else has. You're free. Free to embrace the life unfolding before you without resistance, free to focus on what you can control, and free to find meaning and fulfillment in the present moment. By loving your fate, you stop competing with others for a different life and start thriving in the one you have. It's a practice that may take time to fully embody, but once you do, it shifts the way you see everything, turning even life's challenges into gifts. Envy and jealousy, two emotions that can quietly creep into our lives and disrupt our sense of contentment. Whether it's envying someone else's career, relationship, or even their social media highlight reel, these feelings can make us lose sight of what truly matters. The Stoics understood the corrosive nature of envy, seeing it as a distraction from gratitude and a barrier to inner peace. Their teachings offer a clear alternative. Rather than focusing on what others have, we should turn our attention to the abundance already present in our own lives. At its core, envy stems from comparison. It arises when we measure ourselves against others and feel we're falling short. But here's the truth: envy is built on an illusion. When we envy someone else, we only see a small piece of their reality, usually the most polished, curated part. We rarely consider their struggles, sacrifices, or burdens. Imagine someone scrolling through a friend's vacation pictures on social media. They might feel envious, wishing they could afford such an escape. But what those photos don't show are the challenges that friend might be facing behind the scenes: financial strain, family issues, or personal insecurities. The Stoics would remind us that envying an incomplete picture is not only irrational, it's harmful to our own well-being. Instead of falling into the trap of comparison, the Stoics teach us to shift our focus inward. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Do not waste the remaining part of your life in thoughts about others, when you do not refer your thoughts to some object of common utility." In other words, don't squander your time obsessing over what others have or do. Their path is theirs and yours is yours. By focusing on your own journey and embracing gratitude for what you already possess, you free yourself from the chains of jealousy. Gratitude is the antidote to envy. When you focus on what you already have, your relationships, your strengths, your opportunities, you create a mindset of abundance. The Stoics often reflected on the fleeting nature of life to cultivate this gratitude. For example, instead of envying someone else's achievements, consider the blessings already present in your life. Do you have good health, supportive friends or family, the ability to pursue something meaningful? By regularly reflecting on these gifts, you shift your perspective from lack to abundance. Let's take a practical example. Imagine you're feeling envious of a colleague who just received a promotion. It's easy to fixate on what they now have: a higher salary, greater recognition, or new opportunities. But instead of letting envy take root, pause for a moment and reflect. What do you have in your life right now that brings you joy or fulfillment? Perhaps you already enjoy a strong sense of work-life balance, or maybe you're on a path of learning and growth that's perfectly suited to you. This doesn't mean you can't aspire to grow in your career, but the Stoics would remind you not to let someone else's success diminish the gratitude you feel for your own path. Now, let's make this personal. Take a moment to reflect. Are there areas where envy might be influencing your actions or thoughts unnecessarily? Perhaps you've felt resentment towards someone's success, or maybe you've been chasing something not because it aligns with your values, but because you feel pressured to keep up. Ask yourself, is this envy helping me become the person I want to be, or is it pulling me away from my inner peace? Often, just recognizing envy for what it is, a fleeting emotion, not a reflection of reality, can loosen its grip. By practicing gratitude and focusing on what you can control, your own actions, thoughts, and personal growth, you can let go of envy and jealousy. The next time you feel that familiar tug of comparison, remember, someone else's success doesn't diminish your own. Their journey is theirs and yours is uniquely yours. By letting go of envy, you create space to fully appreciate the life you already have, and that's a victory no one can take away. Ego, a small word with a tremendous impact on how we live our lives. The Stoics understood that unchecked ego is one of the greatest obstacles to personal growth and peace. It's that inner voice that craves recognition, that constantly seeks to prove itself superior, and that feels threatened when others achieve success. In the context of competition, ego is often the unseen force driving us to measure our worth based on external accomplishments, to compare ourselves to others, and to chase validation at the expense of inner fulfillment. But here's the danger: when the ego takes control, it blinds us to what truly matters. It tricks us into believing that success is about beating others, standing out, or gaining approval. It ties our sense of self-worth to outcomes and external praise, making us feel restless, envious, or even angry when things don't go our way. But as the Stoics remind us, this fixation on external validation is a distraction, a noisy detour from the path of true self-improvement. Marcus Aurelius, a man who had every reason to let his ego inflate as the most powerful ruler of his time, wrote, "Rid yourself of the unnecessary baggage." What is unnecessary is heavy, let it go. Ego is precisely that, an unnecessary weight. It clouds our judgment, saps our energy, and pulls us away from focusing on the one thing that truly matters: our character. What's more, ego fuels competition that serves no real purpose. Instead of measuring progress based on how well we've aligned with our values, ego pushes us to measure progress by how we compare to others, an endless and unwinnable race. Now, let's consider an example of letting go of ego to find greater peace. Imagine a talented musician who constantly feels the need to outperform their peers. Every performance becomes an opportunity, not to share their art or improve their craft, but to prove they're the best. They obsess over applause, reviews, and who gets the top billing. When they see another artist receive more recognition, their ego feels bruised, sparking frustration and jealousy. Over time, this mindset drains the joy they once found in playing music, turning their passion into a burden. But now imagine a shift. One day, this musician decides to step back and asks themselves, why did I start playing music in the first place? Was it for the love of the art or for the approval of others? By reflecting on their true motivations and recognizing the ego's role in their unhappiness, they begin to let go of the need to compete. Instead of striving to win, they focus on honing their skills, expressing themselves authentically, and sharing their music with others. The result, they rediscover the joy and freedom that originally drew them to music. Their sense of worth is no longer tied to external validation. It comes from knowing they're dedicating themselves to something meaningful. This example illustrates a crucial Stoic principle. When you let go of ego, you liberate yourself from the unnecessary burden of competition. You begin to see that life isn't a contest against others, it's a journey of becoming your best self. Ego distracts us from this journey by making us chase external rewards, but the real victory lies in focusing inward, on cultivating virtue and pursuing goals that align with our values. The Stoics encourage us to tame our ego by practicing humility, gratitude, and self-awareness. Humility reminds us that we are not defined by our successes or failures. Gratitude shifts our focus from what we lack or want to how much we already have. And self-awareness helps us recognize when our ego is at play, giving us the power to detach from it. Together, these practices allow us to step off the treadmill of ego-driven competition and focus instead on meaningful self-improvement. Letting go of ego isn't easy, but it's one of the most liberating things you can do. By quieting the voice that constantly demands attention and validation, you create space to focus on what truly matters: your growth, your principles, and your ability to find peace in the life you're living, not the one your ego thinks you need. That is the kind of strength that no amount of competition can ever provide. Gratitude is one of the most transformative practices the Stoics encourage us to embrace. Why? Because gratitude shifts our perspective in a profound way. Instead of fixating on what we don't have or on what others might possess, it redirects our focus to the abundance already present in our lives. And when we're anchored in this sense of abundance, competition becomes irrelevant. After all, why feel the need to compete when you already recognize how much you've been given? Seneca, one of the most eloquent Stoic philosophers, often reflected on the importance of appreciating the present moment and the sufficiency of what we already have. He wrote, "True happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future." not to amuse ourselves with either hopes or fears, but to rest satisfied with what we have, which is sufficient. This simple yet profound reminder calls us to stop chasing what's out there: more success, more possessions, more validation, and to instead find contentment in what's already within reach. Gratitude helps us cultivate this mindset. It allows us to see that, in many cases, what we already have is not just enough, it's more than enough. Imagine how this plays out in everyday life. Picture someone who feels the constant pressure to climb the corporate ladder, always comparing their progress to that of their peers. They might envy a colleague's promotion, higher salary, or recognition, believing these external markers will bring them happiness. But what if they paused for a moment and reflected on what they already have? Perhaps they already enjoy meaningful work, supportive colleagues, and the stability to provide for themselves and their loved ones. Gratitude reveals that these are no small gifts. By focusing on these blessings, they might realize that the life they're building is already rich and fulfilling. From this perspective, their colleagues' success no longer feels like a threat, but simply a part of someone else's journey, one that doesn't take away from their own. Gratitude also helps us escape the trap of perpetual scarcity. It's easy to fall into the mindset of not enough time, not enough money, not enough recognition. But this scarcity mindset breeds competition because it creates the illusion that life is a zero-sum game. If someone else wins, it must mean you're losing. Gratitude breaks this illusion by revealing the abundance that's already around us. When you take the time to truly appreciate what you have, you begin to see that the not enough you once feared was never real to begin with. Instead of feeling envious of others or fearing that you're falling behind, you feel a deep sense of peace with where you are. Let's put this into practice. Start small. Each day, take a moment to reflect on 3 things you're grateful for. They don't have to be monumental. It could be something as simple as the warmth of a morning coffee, a kind word from a friend, or the opportunity to learn something new. Over time, this practice rewires your perspective. You begin to notice how much good exists in your life, even in the midst of challenges. And when you see your own abundance clearly, there's no room for comparison or competition. Your focus shifts inward, to your own growth, values, and journey rather than outward to what others have. Seneca's message is timeless. True contentment isn't found in chasing more, but in appreciating what already is. When you embrace gratitude, you step off the exhausting treadmill of competition. You realize there's nothing to prove, nothing to win, because the life you're living is already enough. Gratitude doesn't just eliminate competition, it replaces it with clarity, peace, and a profound sense of fulfillment. And that, as the Stoics would say, is the ultimate victory. While the modern world often glorifies competition as the key to success, the Stoics offer a refreshing alternative: cooperation. For the Stoics, life isn't about defeating others or constantly striving to be better than the people around us. Instead, it's about working together, fostering harmony, and recognizing that mutual growth benefits everyone. This mindset not only leads to stronger relationships, but also creates outcomes that no individual effort could achieve alone. In their view, the strength of teamwork and unity far outweighs the fleeting satisfaction of rivalry. Marcus Aurelius, as both a Stoic philosopher and a Roman emperor, deeply understood the importance of cooperation. He saw himself not as a ruler above others, but as part of a larger whole, with his role being to serve the collective good. In his Meditations he wrote, "We are all part of one body. We must see ourselves as limbs working together for the benefit of the organism as a whole." This analogy reminds us that just as the body functions best when its parts work in harmony, society thrives when individuals collaborate rather than compete. Let's consider a practical example. Imagine you're part of a team at work that's tasked with launching a new product. A competitive mindset might lead you to focus on making yourself stand out, trying to outperform your colleagues, taking credit for successes, and subtly undermining their contributions. In the short term, this might seem like a strategy to gain recognition, but in reality, it damages trust, weakens the team dynamic, and ultimately hinders the project's success. Now shift to a Stoic-inspired mindset of cooperation. You recognize that each team member brings unique strengths and that the team's overall success is more important than individual recognition. Instead of seeking personal glory, you focus on how you can best support the collective effort. You share ideas openly, encourage others to contribute, and celebrate wins as a shared accomplishment. This approach doesn't just lead to better results, it strengthens relationships, builds trust, and creates an environment where everyone feels valued. The project succeeds not because of one person's effort, but because of the group's collective dedication. Cooperation doesn't just apply in professional settings, it's equally powerful in our personal lives. Think about the relationships we have with friends, family, or even strangers. A competitive mindset might lead to jealousy or resentment, feeling the need to one-up someone's success or prove you're more capable. But when we approach these relationships with the intention to uplift each other, we create space for mutual growth. For example, if a friend achieves something significant, like a promotion or a personal milestone, a competitive mindset might feel threatened. But through cooperation and genuine support, you could instead celebrate their success, learn from their growth, and strengthen the bond between you. This cooperative approach also reflects a key Stoic principle, focusing on what's within your control. You can't dictate what others achieve, but you can control how you show up, how you contribute, and how you relate to others. By choosing cooperation, you channel your energy into actions that foster connection and progress, rather than wasting it on jealousy or rivalry. Collaboration has the power to amplify success, but it does something deeper as well. It connects us to our shared humanity. The Stoics believed that we are all interconnected, part of a larger community, and that our purpose is to work in harmony with one another. Epictetus reminds us, we are made for cooperation, like feet, like hands, like eyelids, like the rows of the upper and lower teeth. To act against one another is contrary to nature. Whether in a workplace, a friendship, or a community, the Stoic approach is clear. By lifting others, we lift ourselves. In the end, cooperation doesn't just benefit the group, it transforms the individual. It shifts our focus away from me and toward we, fostering a sense of purpose and fulfillment that rivalry can never provide. So ask yourself, how can you contribute to the collective good? How can you bring out the best in others while becoming your best self in the process? The Stoics would say that the answer lies not in competition, but in coming together for something greater than ourselves. Tranquility, true inner peace, is one of the greatest victories we can achieve in life. Unlike the fleeting satisfaction of external rewards or the adrenaline rush of outpacing someone else, tranquility offers something far more enduring. It's a steady, unshakable sense of calm that isn't dependent on circumstances or other people's opinions. The Stoics believed that cultivating tranquility is a form of mastery over life itself, a victory where there are no losers because it comes entirely from within. How does tranquility connect to the idea of winning without competition? It starts with redefining the battlefield. While the world often frames success as something external, winning a race, earning a title, or gaining recognition, the Stoics remind us that the true battle takes place within. The enemies we face are internal: anxiety, anger, envy, or fear. And so, tranquility is the ultimate prize, the state of mind where these distractions no longer control us. As Epictetus said, freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. tranquility doesn't mean passivity or disengagement. It's not about escaping from the challenges of life or refusing to pursue goals. Instead, it's about approaching life with a sense of balance and focus, unaffected by external chaos. Imagine standing in the middle of a storm, but instead of being swept away by the wind and rain, you remain grounded and steady because the calm within you is stronger than the storm outside. That's tranquility, its power, resilience, and freedom rolled into one. The Stoics understood that maintaining peace of mind requires a deliberate practice. Life will always throw challenges and distractions our way, but with the right tools, we can train ourselves to respond with clarity and composure. One of the most effective tools they used was meditation, not in the sense of sitting cross-legged with eyes closed, but as a mental exercise to reflect on the day, confront emotions, and prepare for what's ahead. For instance, Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, often wrote to himself as a way to strengthen his perspective and find calm amidst the pressures of ruling an empire. He would remind himself to distinguish between what was within and beyond his control, to temper his anger, and to approach obstacles with patience. This practice wasn't about avoiding challenges, but about equipping himself to face them without losing his peace of mind. You can do the same. Through journaling or quiet reflection, you can ask yourself, what events or worries have been disturbing my peace today? Are they truly within my control, or am I wasting energy on something external? By consistently checking in with yourself, you create a habit of clarity and self-regulation. Another Stoic practice for cultivating tranquility is premeditatio malorum or the premeditation of evils. This exercise involves imagining potential challenges or setbacks before they occur, not to dwell on negativity, but to mentally prepare yourself to handle them calmly. Let's say you're about to give an important presentation. Instead of simply hoping everything goes perfectly, you might take a moment to visualize potential difficulties, technical issues, a tough question from the audience, or even moments of self-doubt. By mentally rehearsing how you'll handle these situations with grace and composure, you strengthen your ability to remain tranquil if and when they arise. You've already won because you're prepared to maintain your inner peace, no matter the outcome. Tranquility is also deeply connected to gratitude. When you shift your focus from what's missing in your life to what's already there, you create a sense of sufficiency that keeps you grounded. The Stoics often practiced reflecting on life's impermanence, not as a source of fear, but as a reminder to cherish the present moment and the people you love. This sense of gratitude softens the pull of ambition or rivalry, because when you're truly content with your life, the need to compete fades away. Ultimately, tranquility is the quiet but profound victory that Stoicism offers. It's about mastering yourself, not the world around you. It's about finding peace in the midst of chaos, regardless of external circumstances. And it's a victory that can never be taken away because it comes from within. So the next time life feels overwhelming or competitive pressure creeps in, pause and remind yourself, the greatest win is not out there. It's the calm you cultivate in here. Integrity is the cornerstone of a life well lived. For the Stoics, living with integrity meant staying true to your values and principles, even when it's inconvenient, difficult, or goes unnoticed by others. It's about aligning your actions with your beliefs, ensuring that your internal compass guides you far more than external pressures. In a world where shortcuts and compromises are often celebrated as clever strategies for success, integrity is the Stoics' quiet, enduring way of winning because it prioritizes what truly matters, your character. The Stoics believed that character is the foundation of a virtuous and fulfilling life. Marcus Aurelius emphasized this in his Meditations when he wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." These simple yet profound words remind us that success achieved at the cost of our values is no success at all. Living with integrity means staying anchored in your principles, no matter what temptations or challenges arise. It's not about public approval or recognition. It's about the quiet satisfaction of knowing you've acted rightly, even when no one is watching. This idea resonates with Aristotle's famous observation that character is destiny. Aristotle, like the Stoics, believed that it is our habits, choices, and moral fiber that ultimately shape the course of our lives. While external events and circumstances can influence our path, it's our character that determines how we respond, how we grow, and ultimately what kind of life we lead. In this way, character is both our foundation and our future. It's the one constant that we carry with us through all of life's changes. Let's explore how this idea aligns with the Stoic approach to winning. Imagine someone faced with the temptation to compromise their integrity for attempting reward a business deal that requires bending the truth, for example, or a social opportunity that demands abandoning a friend to fit in with a more powerful group. From the outside, taking these shortcuts might seem like a victory. They might bring wealth, recognition, or influence in the short term, but at what cost? The Stoics would argue that any gain achieved by compromising your values isn't a gain at all, it's a loss of something far more precious, your self-respect and the consistency of your character. Now contrast this with a person who chooses to uphold their integrity, even when it's the harder path. Perhaps they turn down the dishonest deal or stand by their friend despite social pressures. They may lose out on an opportunity, but they walk away with something far more valuable, the knowledge that they acted in accordance with their principles. They've preserved their character, which serves as the foundation for all future decisions. And in doing so, they've achieved a kind of victory that external success can never rival. The victory of living authentically. Living with integrity is not only about making morally sound choices, it's also about cultivating inner strength. When you consistently act in alignment with your values, you build trust in yourself. You develop confidence in your ability to navigate life's challenges without wavering. This inner consistency creates a sense of peace and resilience because you know that no matter what happens, you won't be swayed by external forces or tempted to act against your principles. The Stoics remind us that integrity, more than anything external, is what defines us. What good is wealth or fame if they are earned through deception or betrayal? And what loss is too great if it's faced while staying true to your principles? The external world may judge success by tangible results, but the Stoics judge it by the quality of your character. By living with integrity, you win in the only arena that truly matters, your inner life. So, ask yourself, are your actions aligned with your values? Are you staying true to who you want to be, even when it's difficult? The Stoics believed that integrity is not just a path to personal fulfillment, it's a way of mastering life. And when you live with integrity, you achieve a victory that no one can take away. Comparison is often referred to as the thief of joy, and for good reason. The moment we place our happiness in how we measure up to others, we hand over control of our emotional well-being to something entirely outside ourselves, someone else's achievements, possessions, or perceived status. The Stoics, ever focused on the inner life, saw comparison as one of the greatest traps we can fall into. It shifts our focus from what we can control, like our own actions and values, to what we cannot, like the lives or successes of others. This mindset, they believed, is one of the primary sources of unhappiness, but the good news, we don't have to live that way. The Stoics teach us a better path, freedom from comparison. At the heart of this idea is the understanding that everyone's journey is unique. Epictetus said, "How ridiculous and how strange to be surprised at anything which happens in life." By this, he meant that life unfolds differently for each of us, shaped by countless factors: our circumstances, experiences, and choices. Comparing ourselves to others is not only unfair to them, but also unfair to us because it ignores the distinctive paths we're each traveling. It's like criticizing an apple for not being an orange. Both have their own purposes, forms, and timing. The Stoics urge us to embrace our own path, focusing on what's within our control and leaving aside the unnecessary weight of comparison. So, how do we begin to free ourselves from the habit of comparing? The first step is awareness. Pay attention to when feelings of comparison arise, when you see someone else's success on social media, when a friend achieves something admirable, or when a colleague receives recognition. Pause and ask yourself, why am I comparing? Is my worth truly tied to matching or exceeding this person's accomplishments? The Stoics would remind us that the achievements of others are external events, things we cannot control, and therefore should not disturb our inner peace. The second step is gratitude. One of the best ways to counteract envy or dissatisfaction is by focusing on what we already have. Instead of looking outward and wishing for what someone else possesses, look inward and appreciate the blessings in your own life. It might be your health, your relationships, your abilities, or even the simple fact that you have the opportunity to grow and learn. Marcus Aurelius encouraged this practice, writing, "Do not indulge in dreams of having what you have not, but reckon up the chief of the blessings you do possess, and then thankfully remember how you would crave for them if they were not yours." Gratitude shifts the focus from lack to abundance, helping us see that we're already enough just as we are. Another practical step is to redefine success on your own terms. Society often paints a narrow picture of what success looks like: wealth, status, or fame, but the Stoics rejected this idea. To them, true success lies in living a virtuous life, in being kind, courageous, disciplined, and just. When you focus on these internal markers, you free yourself from the external comparisons that society encourages. You stop asking, "Am I better than them?" and instead ask, "Am I better than I was yesterday?" Finally, practice celebrating others. When a friend or colleague achieves something, instead of comparing or feeling threatened, shift your mindset to one of genuine joy for their success. This doesn't diminish your own path, it enriches it by fostering connection and generosity. The Stoics believed that we are all interconnected, and by celebrating the victories of others, we strengthen that bond. Freedom from comparison doesn't mean you stop striving for growth or setting goals. It simply means that your progress is no longer defined by how you measure up to others. Instead, it's about who you are becoming, guided by your own values and principles. The Stoics teach us that the only race worth running is the one against ourselves, the daily effort to live a little more virtuously, to embody our values a little more fully, and to focus on what truly matters, our own inner progress. When you let go of comparison, you gain something far greater: peace, fulfillment, and the freedom to live authentically. When we think about success, we often picture striving, planning, and looking ahead. But the Stoics teach us something surprising. One of the most powerful keys to success lies not in obsessing over the future or how we compare to others, but in being fully present in the moment. Mindfulness, the ability to focus completely on the here and now, allows us to bring our full attention and effort to whatever we're doing. When we practice presence, we not only do our best work, but we also free ourselves from the mental clutter of competition and worry. It's here, in this state of undistracted focus, that true success starts to emerge. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, spoke often about the importance of living in the present. In his Meditations he wrote, "Confine yourself to the present." These simple words capture the essence of Stoic mindfulness. For Marcus, the past was already gone and the future was uncertain. The only thing we truly have is this moment, right here, right now. And it's what we do in this moment that determines not only our success but also our sense of fulfillment. Think about how much energy is wasted when we live anywhere but the present. When we focus too much on the past, we can get stuck in regret or resentment over things we can't change. When we obsess over the future, we're pulled into anxiety or the fear of what might happen. And when we spend our time comparing ourselves to others, we lose sight of our own unique path. These distractions dilute our focus and rob us of the opportunity to give our best to the task at hand. Mindfulness, on the other hand, brings us back to what's real, this moment, this action, this choice. Imagine, for example, an athlete preparing for a competition. The moment they let their mind wander, whether it's worrying about a rival's performance, dwelling on past mistakes, or stressing about the outcome, they lose focus. Their performance suffers because they're not fully present. But if they channel their energy into the present moment, feeling the rhythm of their breath, concentrating on their technique, and trusting in the preparation they've done, they enter a state of flow. In this state, they're not thinking about winning or losing. They're simply doing, fully absorbed in their craft. This is the power of mindfulness. It allows us to operate at our best, free from distractions and unnecessary tension. The beauty of mindfulness is that it's not reserved for athletes or high-stakes moments. It applies to every part of life, whether you're working on a project, spending time with loved ones, or even doing something as simple as washing the dishes. Being fully present transforms the experience. When you're mindful, you're no longer rushing through tasks or thinking about what's next. Instead, you bring a sense of care and intention to what you're doing. And when you live this way, success becomes less about the end result and more about the quality of your effort in each moment. The Stoics believed that mindfulness also helps us detach from outcomes. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Do every act of your life as though it were the very last act of your life." This doesn't mean living in fear, but rather pouring your whole self into the present moment because it's all you can truly control. By focusing on the process rather than the result, you let go of the need to compete or worry about what others are doing. Your energy goes into what matters most, taking meaningful action right here and now. If mindfulness feels difficult to practice, remember that it's a skill that can be developed. One simple way to start is by pausing throughout your day to ask yourself, "Am I fully here or is my mind elsewhere?" If you notice your thoughts wandering to the past or the future, gently bring them back to the present. Focus on your breath, your surroundings, or the task in front of you. Over time, this habit of returning to the present strengthens your ability to stay grounded and focused. In the end, being present isn't just about performing better, it's about living more fully. When you're mindful, life stops feeling like a race to the next milestone. Instead, it becomes a series of rich, meaningful moments, each one an opportunity to give your best. This is the Stoic path to success, not chasing after recognition or worrying about competition, but finding fulfillment in the only moment that truly exists, the one you're living right now. Humility is a virtue often misunderstood in today's world. It's not about self-deprecation or thinking less of yourself. It's about seeing yourself clearly without distortion from ego or pride. Humility allows you to acknowledge both your strengths and weaknesses with honesty, giving you the freedom to stop comparing yourself to others and instead focus on your own growth. In the Stoic view, humility is not a limitation but a foundation for personal excellence. It's what clears the path for true, continuous self-improvement. When we imagine humility, we might think of someone quietly deferring to others, but the Stoics saw it as something much more active. Humility requires the courage to face yourself honestly, to ask, "What can I do better?" Without feeling defensive or threatened. It's about being open to feedback, recognizing that you don't have all the answers, and understanding that there's always room to grow. Marcus Aurelius embodied this mindset when he wrote, Be tolerant with others and strict with yourself. These words capture the essence of humility. It's not about pretending to be perfect or better than others, but about holding yourself accountable to your own potential. Humility is the antidote to the competitive mindset. When we're caught up in competition, our focus shifts outward. We become preoccupied with how we measure up, whether we're winning or losing, and how others perceive us. This mindset fuels the ego, creating a never-ending need to prove ourselves. But humility allows us to step away from all of that. It invites us to look inward, to focus not on how we compare to others, but on how we can improve ourselves. This shift in focus is profound. Instead of asking, "Am I better than them?" humility asks, "Am I better than I was yesterday?" Consider an example. Imagine a skilled professional who is highly regarded in their field. They've achieved significant success and others look to them for expertise. But instead of letting ego take over, this person remains humble. They continue to seek out new knowledge, ask questions, and learn from others, even from those with less experience. They recognize that no matter how much they've accomplished, they can still improve. Now, contrast this with someone who lacks humility, a person who clings to their achievements, refuses to acknowledge their mistakes, and views others as rivals to be defeated. While the humble professional grows steadily over time, the egotistical one stagnates, trapped by their own need to maintain the appearance of superiority. This is the power of humility. It keeps us grounded, curious, and open to growth. It allows us to embrace challenges as opportunities to learn rather than threats to our pride. When you're humble, you're not afraid to admit what you don't know or to ask for help, because your focus isn't on protecting your image, it's on becoming better. And in doing so, you free yourself from the anxiety and stress of competition. You realize that self-improvement is not a race but a lifelong journey, one that requires constant reflection and a willingness to adapt. As you reflect on this idea, ask yourself, are there areas in your life where humility might be lacking? Perhaps there's a situation where you've hesitated to admit a mistake, or a skill you've avoided developing because it feels uncomfortable to be a beginner again. Maybe there's someone you could learn from, but pride has held you back. Recognizing these moments isn't about being hard on yourself, it's about seeing them as opportunities to grow. By embracing humility, you align with one of the most powerful Stoic virtues. You let go of the need to compete with others and focus on the only competition that truly matters, the ongoing work of becoming the best version of yourself. When we hear the word legacy, we often think of monumental achievements, building empires, earning world-renowned accolades, or leaving behind visible markers of success. But for the Stoics, legacy wasn't about the external. It wasn't about wealth, fame, or even how widely remembered you were. Instead, they believed your true legacy is found in the character you cultivate and the example you set for those around you. By focusing on inner excellence rather than external recognition, they redefined what it means to leave something meaningful behind. Marcus Aurelius, one of history's most powerful and remembered figures, didn't see his legacy in the monuments built in his name or the influence he wielded as emperor. Instead, he saw his legacy in the way he lived, the principles he adhered to, and the impact of his virtue on others. He wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." This, in essence, captures the Stoic approach to legacy. It's not about what you achieve in the eyes of others, but about who you are and how you choose to live each day. The Stoics believed that character is eternal. Long after material achievements fade, the kind of person you were, how you treated others, the integrity you displayed, and the example you set remains. Think about the people who have impacted your own life in meaningful ways. It's rarely their titles, wealth, or possessions that inspire you. Instead, it's their kindness, their wisdom, their courage, or their ability to live authentically. These traits, not their external accomplishments, are what form their true legacy. The Stoics encourage us to focus on this kind of legacy for ourselves. This idea of leaving a legacy doesn't have to be grand or far-reaching. It can be as simple as the influence you have on the people you encounter daily. Consider a teacher whose kindness and encouragement sparks a lifelong love of learning in a student, or a family member whose resilience in the face of challenges teaches others the meaning of strength. These moments of inner excellence are legacies in their truest form, not because they're loud or publicly celebrated, but because they inspire growth and goodness in others. And here's the key: this kind of legacy has nothing to do with competition. It's not about being better than others or outshining anyone. It's about becoming the kind of person who uplifts and inspires regardless of external success. The idea of living as an example is central to Stoicism. Epictetus taught that the best way to teach virtue is to live it. He didn't advocate for preaching or forcing one's beliefs onto others. Instead, he believed that by cultivating inner excellence, people naturally inspire and attract others to follow their lead. Imagine someone who lives with calmness and integrity in a chaotic world. Without saying a word, their presence serves as a quiet reminder that it's possible to remain composed and principled, no matter the circumstances. That influence, born out of their character, is their legacy. As you reflect on your own life, consider this: what kind of legacy do you want to leave behind? How do you treat others in the small, everyday moments? Are your actions reflecting the values you believe in? The Stoics encourage us to focus on these questions, knowing that the answers shape not only the way we live but also the impact we leave behind. Ultimately, the Stoic view of legacy is one of immense freedom. It takes the pressure off external competition or the need for public validation. It reminds us that our true legacy is something we can work on every single day. By dedicating ourselves to inner excellence, by seeking to live with courage, kindness, wisdom, and integrity, we not only win without competing, but we also leave behind something far more valuable than any material achievement, an example that inspires others to do the same. As we reach the conclusion of this exploration into the Stoic approach to winning without competing, it's clear that the Stoics offer us a radical yet freeing perspective on success. True success, they teach, is not about outdoing others, collecting trophies, or earning external recognition. Instead, it's about mastering yourself, cultivating virtue, and living in harmony with the natural order of things. It's about shifting the focus from chasing external rewards to nurturing inner strength, resilience, and peace. Through this journey, we've seen how the Stoics reframe our understanding of what it means to win. From Marcus Aurelius's emphasis on focusing on the present moment, to Epictetus's reminder that we only control our own thoughts and actions, the Stoics guide us to look inward rather than outward for fulfillment. They show us that true victory lies in how we respond to life, not in what life gives or takes away. Virtue qualities like wisdom, courage, self-control, and justice is at the heart of this Stoic path. The Stoics believed that living with virtue is the pinnacle of human achievement. When we align our choices and actions with these principles, we stop worrying about external comparisons or fleeting outcomes. Instead, we act with integrity, confidence, and a sense of purpose. As Seneca once wrote, "The wise man is content with his lot, whatever it may be, without wishing for what he has not." Perhaps most importantly, the Stoic approach encourages us to redefine how we measure success in our daily lives. Winning isn't about being faster, wealthier, or more recognized than others. It's about staying true to our values, treating others with respect, and showing up as the best version of ourselves, even when life throws its challenges our way. It's in the effort we make to remain patient in the face of difficulty, to act with courage when fear arises, and to choose kindness when it would be easier to turn away. Every moment becomes an opportunity to succeed, not by external standards, but by your own. As we close, I'd like to leave you with one final piece of wisdom from Epictetus. First, say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. This simple yet profound guidance reminds us that the life we want to live starts with intention. Define who you want to be, not in comparison to others, but in alignment with your own values. Then take small, deliberate steps every day to live that way. Over time, those steps will lead to a life full of meaning, purpose, and inner success. Now it's your turn to reflect. How can you redefine your idea of winning in your own life? Which Stoic principle from this video resonated with you the most, and how will you apply it? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to know how you're bringing these teachings into your daily life. Let's create a space where we can support and inspire one another on this journey toward true, lasting fulfillment. Thank you for joining me today, and as the Stoics would say, keep striving to live in accordance with your highest values. That is the ultimate